To those of you what's waiting outside to get inside, the next tour will depart in just 2 minutes. Once inside, you will be guided through several rooms where you will see various torture devices on display, and we'll tell you a bit about them. Please note, these are torture devices, not happy time fun toys. Some of the descriptions may bother our more sensitive guests, so parental guidance is suggested. Since the rooms in our dungeon are kinda small, each group can only hold up to 4 adults, or maybe 5 if some of them are children. If you're ready, the next group may step inside our entrance area and wait for further instructions. This will give your eyes a chance to get adjusted to the dim light levels inside the actual museum. So step on inside, but do not enter the actual dungeon until instructed to do so. Before your tour begins, we have a few simple instructions for you. First, food and drink is not allowed inside the castle. Please finish any such items before entering. Smoking is not allowed inside the castle, since we have found that open flames and ancient torture devices do not mix. Once inside, please do not touch any of the artifacts. They are quite fragile and damage easily. Again, please do not touch anything once inside the dungeon. And although most dungeons are dark, we will light the way for you. So please follow the lights so you don't get lost, and be sure to stay within the roped path. And lastly, no flash photography. It ruins the experience for other victims, guests. Please gather your group together. You may now enter the dungeon. Welcome to the torture chamber, here inside Merrick Castle. This was once a terrible place to end up, but today we present it to you as a historical look at a much darker time. Our 5-minute guided tour begins here, where you see an example of the stocks. The stocks were a device used for public humiliation, corporal punishment, and torture. Typically, a person condemned to the stocks was subjected to a variety of abuses, ranging from having refuse thrown at them, or paddling and tickling of the bare feet, to being stoned, whipped, and beaten. At the end of the hallway, you will see our Iron Maiden. The Iron Maiden was more of an instrument of execution than torture. This device enclosed the victims with spikes driven through their bodies. It was called the Iron Maiden because it was often styled after the Madonna or a favorite daughter. Please follow the lights and continue into the next chamber. Here you will see the chair of spikes as well as the rack. The purpose of the chair is fairly obvious. The victim is made to sit on the chair with the straps tightened to drive the spikes into his or her flesh. While quite painful, the chair itself was not immediately fatal. However, infection and tetanus claimed many victims days or weeks later. The rack was very popular. The victim's arms and legs were strapped to each end, and they were slowly stretched until the bones popped. Behind you is what is left of some of our previous guests. Most prisoners never left again after being captured. They were left to rot in the cells and cages, or thrown in on top of the already dead. Please continue to the start of the next hallway, stopping in front of the picture. On the wall, you will see a drawing of something very disturbing. The wheel. The wheel was one of the most popular and insidious methods of torture and execution practiced. The giant spiked wheel was able to break bodies as it rolled forward, causing the most agonizing and drawn-out death. The executioner would then smash every joint with the iron edge of the wheel. However, the executioner would avoid fatal blows to give the victim a painful death. Please continue around the corner and into our next room. In the corner, you will see some of the more gender-specific items of the tour. A device used specifically for men was called the crocodile iron. This iron was heated red hot and used to tear off the male member. One of the devices used specifically for women was the breast stripper. It was clamped around the breast, and the metal teeth would dig through the tissue. With continuous pressure and twisting, they would rip the breast off. On the next wall are some more tools of the trade. These devices were used in interrogation of prisoners. The first, on the far left, was similar to a pear. The item was heated and then shoved into the mouth of the victim, while the teeth were widened. Other orifices were used as well. The second is boots that were heated and strapped to the victims, while sharp wedges were shoved into the ankles. And third, on the right, was your basic skinner. Its task was simple: to remove the flesh of the skin. And finally, we come to the Judas cradle. With hands tied overhead, the victim was positioned at the waist and repeatedly dropped and rocked or weighted down until the victim bled out and died. Some victims would hang on until they were nearly ripped in half. I hate to leave you on such a disturbing final note, but this is a museum of torture after all. If you want to see the rest of the castle, come back and join us in October for the Haunted Scream Park. Thank you for joining me today. You may now return to the fair. I do hope our pets didn't frighten you. We keep them chained up during the Renaissance Fair, but if you want to see him up close, we'll be sure to let him out in October. They're quite fragile and damaging. Again, please do not touch anything once inside the dungeon. And although most dungeons are dark, we will light the way for you, so please follow the